Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to yet another new course in the NPTEL MOOCs from IIT Kanpur. I am Dr. Deepafale from IIT Kanpur, and today we are going to talk about the course titled Artificial Intelligence in Industrial and Management Engineering. While all of you might have come across various applications of AI in computer science, image recognition, pattern recognition, analyzing large data sets and etc. Very rarely you come across problems of AI being directly applied to industrial systems, specifically businesses, daily operations, process improvement, facility layout, etc. So, this course is actually intended towards introducing you to various concepts of industrial engineering, business systems, and there are a few cases in which specific AI tools introduce them to you, and then how that can be applied to various business case problems and how that actually will help us in doing productivity improvement, etc. So, without any further delay, let us move to the slides of today and today's presentation. So, we will start with today. It is called the basics of business. So, as I said, I am Dr. Deepafale from IIT Kanpur. Along with me, another co-instructor of this course is Dr. Prabal Pratap Singh. So, let us start with the fundamental logic of what we call as economic growth. Okay. Economic growth as the basic starting point of our discussion today. So, the word eco, okay, this means eco, the word means home. Okay. So, it is like your house or ghar, whatever you want to call it, right. So, the word ecology, okay, this is the study of home. Okay. It is a study of home. Okay. So, then what is economics? Okay. In simplest way to understand is, it is the management of home. Okay. So, by home I am not saying, okay. So, when we use the word home, what is this home? Okay. Home, we imply our globe or our country or our state, etc. Okay. So, when we talk in economics sense, this means we are either studying the home is our globe or country or state, and the economics aspect of it is the management of home. So, when we say economic growth, then how do you grow your home? How do you grow your country? How do you grow your state? How do you grow the world? Okay. So, one way to think about also is this course is in industrial engineering or industrial or systems study, we focus on all aspects. Okay. Right from ideation, conceptualization, okay. Then we move towards prototyping, okay, finalizing, okay, then translating to production, then manufacturing, then usage, then disposal. Okay. So, from the beginning till the end, okay, the conceptualization till disposal. So, sometimes people call this as, okay, cradle to grave approach. Okay. So, or which is also known as the life cycle approach. So, the industry or industrial engineering looks into the entire life cycle aspect of any of the product or service that we talk about. So, in one thing you should also understand is that any economy that damages the home or its home, okay, that is meant to be managed, okay, or in another way to say it is an economy that befalls its own nest. Okay. If you are making your own home dirty, okay, that is also known as a failing economy. We call it as a failing economy as part of this. Okay. So, we are not just focusing on growing, okay, we are focusing on every aspect of growth. Okay. So, then what are the considerations? The considerations related to growth or economic growth as such, right. So, the first logic that you need to understand is economic growth. Growth is not intrinsically good or bad. You cannot say that economic growth is always good or economic growth is always bad. Okay. So, it is good because, what are the reasons why it is good? Okay. First reason is it will allow the fulfillment of basic needs. What are the basic needs? You know, this is food, housing, clothing, energy, life, etc. So, basic, roti, kapda, makan, what we call it that way, makan, whatever it is, that is part of it, right. Then the second aspect is it increases the quality of life. Okay. That is the second aspect. So, it is good because of two major reasons: allow fulfillment of basic needs and increases the quality of life. Okay. It is bad because, okay, there are bad aspects also to it, because it undermines the positives immediately or in the long term through adverse environmental impacts or effects. Okay. So, yes, you will increase the allow the fulfillment of the basic needs, the positives, okay, which are the basic needs and the quality of life, but it can, in the long term, it can adversely affect through the environmental effects. So, for example, green revolution, okay, it fulfilled food needs, okay, but now what? Hurting due to pesticides and fertilizers. Okay. So, green revolution, though it fulfilled our food needs, the green revolution is using of high yield variety fertilizers and chemicals, which are weedicides, pesticides, etc. All of these together increased food production, okay, or what we call as per hectare yield increased significantly. Okay. Per hectare yield we got it very high by doing the high yielding variety fertilizers and chemicals, but in the long term it is hurting us because it is causing things like cancer, other issues, it is affecting the environment, etc. So, yes, it is good, economic growth is good because it allows us the positives, and it also is bad because it has its own negatives. Now, let us think about this in a systems concept, okay. And this is very critical because our entire course leaves or walks around this concept. So, the systems concept is that we have inputs to a system, and then we have what we call as a transformation process, and you have outputs. Okay. And in the system also you have, from the outputs you have what you call as feedback. Goes to the input side. So, this system, this is what we call as this transformation process, is in a way we also call it as the system. The system that transforms inputs to outputs. So, what are some of the major inputs? Okay. So, the major inputs include, you can think as land, then people, okay. Then you have capital, then you have facilities, then you have equipment, okay. Then you have tools, then you have energy, then you have materials, then you have information, then you have processes, etc. Okay. All of these things are the inputs to the system. Okay. In the old days we used to call this as old view. We used to have 5M, that was the man, materials, machines, methods, and money. These used to be the 5 M's in older days, but now we expanded the view and we have all those kind of inputs at this point. And the outputs are typically, one is can be either goods or services, or other thing is waste. Okay. And the outputs goes to what you call as customer or consumer. Okay. That is the logic behind this. And then we have what you call as the feedback. Okay. Feedback is how the system is functioning. Okay. That is the feedback, and usually this is measured as what you call as productivity. Okay. How good you are producing. So, productivity, an example of is in when you say agriculture productivity, what does that implies is how much food grains per hectare. Okay. That is the per hectare for a given type of seed, fertilizer, chemicals, water, etc. So, if you provide a particular type of seed, fertilizer, chemical, water, etc. as inputs, and then how much of the food grains you can get for a given area of land. That is what, in a simple way to think about, as agricultural productivity. The reason I am using agriculture at this point is because industrial engineering, lot of this actually came from originally the agricultural aspects of it, because that was our first type of industry, was agriculture in the world. So, lot of the things actually comes from that side. Okay. So, when you have a system like this, okay, then there is something we can call it as, we typically call, the system can have two forms. Okay. One is what you call as manufacturing. Manufacturing is when output is goods. Okay. When the output is goods, we call it as manufacturing. And operations, when output is services, then we call it as operations. So, it can be a manufacturing system or it can be a operations, or instead of operations, people also call it as a service system many of the time. Okay. So, and also there is customer and consumer is there. So, most of the time customer, person who consumes, okay, typically when it comes to goods, then he consumes, then that becomes a consumer. It can be a customer also, this term is used interchangeably. So, you do not have to worry about it, but we in the course also will use consumer and customer interchangeably as part of it. Okay. So, let me walk you through three simple definitions as parts of it, because we mentioned about the goods and services. So, let us talk about goods first. Okay. So, the goods is, in the simplest way to think about is items of monetary value that have been produced. Okay. So, the items of monetary value that can be produced. So, example of it is shoes, car, biscuits, etc. Okay. So, anything that is, okay, items that can be, that is produced, physically being produced. Services, okay, tasks performed by businesses for consumers. Okay. So, example, okay, that is ticket booking. Okay. Then you have is like hospital, etc. Okay. Healthcare, which is a service. Okay. So, what is the key differentiator? Key differentiator between goods and services. What are the key differentiators? How do you differentiate between goods and services? The answer is, goods are tangible. Okay. Goods are tangible, while services are intangible. Okay. So, the goods are tangible, it can be, which means you can touch and feel, well, services are intangible. Okay. Cannot, okay, or it's like we will call it as absence of physical form. Okay. So, that is the key differentiator. All right. So, now let us talk about organizational productivity. So, because we saw in this productivity, okay, of the system. So, now let us talk about what is organizational productivity, and every organization is interested in growing. Okay. Everybody is interested in growing. So, how do we talk about growing the organizational productivity? Okay. So, the productivity, it is the relationship between the outputs generated from a system and the inputs that are used to create those outputs. Okay. So, it is a relationship, between the outputs generated, whatever the outputs you are generated. The outputs can be either goods or services. Okay. We are not talking about the waste at this point, we will deal with the waste later. Okay. Outputs generated from a system and the inputs that are used to create those output. So, what all inputs did you use to create that output is the relationship between them. So, mathematically productivity P is equal to the ratio of outputs over inputs, O divided by I, that is the productivity definition. So, since it is a mathematical definition, how can we improve productivity? Okay. How can we increase the productivity? So, every organization has this key question, how can we increase the productivity? So, now let us talk about productivity improvement. Okay. So, it is the, what is it? What is productivity improvement? It is the outcome of managing, now comes the keyword, managing and intervening in the transformation process. Okay. So, you are managing and intervening the transformation process, that is the idea here. Okay. So, the productivity improvement, it is the outcome of managing, you are managing it and you are intervening in it. Okay. Managing and intervening in the transformation process. I told you what is the transformation process, it is from inputs to outputs, we already seen that here. Okay. So, the productivity improvement Pi can occur if, okay, there are multiple ways you can do it. Number one, it is productivity will increase if you increase the output, decrease the input. This is increase output, decrease input, the straightforward way of doing it. Okay. This is also known as the myopic way of doing it, increase the output, decrease the input. Number two, you can increase the productivity when you do this, you increase the output while maintaining the same output. So, input, increase output, maintain same level of input. Okay. So, you can increase the output while maintaining the same level of input. Number three, you can increase the productivity again if you have the output over input where you maintain the same level of output while you decrease the input. Maintain same output, same level of output, decrease input. Okay. 4, you can increase the productivity when you have a scenario like this. Okay. It is you can see increase the output, but largely increase the output. Okay, slightly increase the input. So, for a small level of increase in the input, drastically increase the output. That is the fourth model. Now, the fifth one is again increasing the productivity, where you do this. Okay. Slightly decrease the output, for that you largely decrease the input. Slightly decrease the output. Okay. For that you largely decrease the input. Okay. So, these are the only 5 ways you can decrease or increase the or you can increase the productivity by decreasing or increasing or maintaining the input or output, the relationship between them. So, this first approach, which we call it as the productivity, this is popular, okay, is most popular among everyone, but it is also called as the myopic approach, or some people call it as the exploitation approach. Okay. Exploit as much as you can. This approach is not very sustainable, because it actually will in the long term will go hurt the environment, and we will not be able to achieve what it is. The second one, increase the output while maintain the same level of input. Okay. This is also, okay, it's also known as process re-engineering. Okay. So, this is usually the approach in that regard. BPR, SAP, they all work in this area. For the same level of output, decrease the input. This is reduce waste or lean approach. Okay. Then if you reduce the waste, obviously your input will reduce. Then the largely increase the output when you slightly increase the input. This is sometimes also known as the carrot and stick approach. Okay. Or what we call as, yeah, that's pretty much what there's nicer names, I think, but the only name come to my mind is this at this point. And the last one is called as the rationalization, or some people call it as the sustainable approach also. Okay. I don't call it sustainable, but it's more like rationalization of the demand is what I call it. Okay. So, this is the 5 aspects through which we can manage the productivity. So, as we seen in the previous slides, if you look into it, the transformation process where we have a lot of inputs that translates to outputs, where you have goods, services and waste, and we will talk about waste a little bit later down the road, and the productivity is the feedback on this. And what we have seen now is how we can play with this productivity and the 5 ways of dealing with it. Okay. So, with this premises, in almost all businesses, they look for improving the productivity, thereby they maximize the revenue, and once they maximize the revenue, they would be able to increase their profit, and they are able to make more money out of it. Okay. So, because of this thing, this productivity is a key aspect that we need to look into when we are making all sort of business decisions, and whether it is in your materials, whether it is man. So, as we said in the previous 5 things, whether it is the man or materials or machines or methods or money, any one of those, we would actually be looking into applying these strategies. So, when you have large amount of data and other things coming into this, artificial intelligence tools can be deployed where such aspects can be addressed in a better way, so that the productivity can be improved and the profitability of the business improves. When the profitability of the business improves, more economic growth is realized. Now, the key question is, how do we do that without hurting the environment? Then that becomes a much nicer problem for us to have. Okay. So, we will continue the rest of this lecture soon, but thank you for your patient hearing.